If you plan on drafting any Seattle Seahawks in fantasy football, you need to know these 5 things about Klint Kubiak's schematic approach to offense, because he is going to come in and dramatically change how the Seahawks move the football. If you don't know me, you're new here. My name is Max. I make daily football content to help you win your fantasy leagues and gain an edge on your league mates by using schematic data, run scheme metrics, and overall statistical trends throughout the NFL. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos that will be coming out throughout the offseason, as well as during the 2025 NFL season. Without further ado, let's talk about Klint Kubiak. If you don't know who he is, last season he was the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. And 2 things that he absolutely loved, even more than most offensive coordinators in the entire NFL, was motion and play action. He loved sending people in motion to buy eyes of the defense, to manipulate coverage, and he loved the play action game so much because it opened things down the field. We'll talk a little bit what that means down the field in a minute here, but the most important thing I want to highlight right now is running back receiving production in this offense. Last season, Klint Kubiak was responsible for an offense that produced the 4th highest running back target rate and the 2nd highest check down rate. Oftentimes, when you're reading a defense as a quarterback, you're looking downfield for that deep shot, which we will talk about here in a minute. You see it. If it's not there, you check the ball down. That is exactly how the Kubiak offense operates. And you can look at last year's statistics with the running backs. Alvin Kamara in New Orleans led the NFL with 89 targets and was 2nd in the NFL with 543 receiving yards. 2 other things of note here. You can see right here, Aaron Jones getting the football from Sam Darnold, who is now the quarterback in the Seattle Seahawks offense, was still a top 10 receiving back in terms of overall yards, as well as a top 20 finish in targets. So if I'm looking at Aaron Jones and I am looking at this Vikings offense in the past, I want to make a comparison to Kenneth Walker. I want to make a comparison to Zach Charbonnet. The bottom line here with this Seahawks offense in 2025 is that Klint Kubiak, Sam Darnold is going to find new ways to get Kenneth Walker the football through the air. And we'll talk a little bit more about Kenneth Walker at the end, but that is the most important thing to note about the Klint Kubiak offense. Number 1, the running back target rate, the running back receiving production should increase with Klint Kubiak at the helm. And if you are a guy that had Zach Charbonnet last year, Kenneth Walker dealt with all these injuries, it was an elite handcuff because he was so good in the receiving game. So as you're looking at drafting these guys, Kenneth Walker, to me, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is a guy you want to target. But if you're getting Kenneth Walker, and I did this in my own most competitive league last year, you better make sure you get Zach Charbonnet. The second most important thing here I want to talk about is the tight end usage. And as always, if you guys are not following me on Twitter, all of this information comes out on there before the YouTube video comes out. If you want it quick as it happens, there's a link in the description below to make sure you follow the Twitter, or you can search it up. It's the same handle, at LoebsLeads, LoebsLeads. But tight ends will be used heavily in this Klint Kubiak offense. Last season, the Kubiak offense garnered the 7th highest percentage of inline targets in the league in 2024. Now, when you look at the Seattle Seahawks depth chart, it's a little troubling because you have Noah Fant, Elijah Roya, and a guy I really like in A.J. Barner. There are 3 really good tight ends in this roster, but I want to go back here and show you guys. They drafted Elijah Arroyo in the 2nd round with the 50th overall pick for a reason. One of the 3 tight ends in Seattle absolutely has to separate from the others to be considered a fantasy weapon, a fantasy piece in your team, even as a backup. But like I said, there's a reason they leaned into Elijah Arroyo when they really didn't need to with the 50th overall pick. They believe in this guy and they want to get this guy involved in their offense. And when you go look at Sam Darnold and what he did last season, he was top 10 in tight end target percentage with TJ Hawkinson missing part of the year. So he likes to throw inline to the tight ends as well. It's going to be a great marriage with Klint Kubiak, so long as one of these tight ends can separate themselves. As always, guys, again, make sure you are following here at LoebsLeads if you're not already to get this information first. But the third thing I want to talk about is the deep throw percentage. I alluded to this at the very beginning of the video. Last season, the Klint Kubiak offense was top 10 in deep throw percentage, right? You like to air the ball out. You want to buy eyes with motion, get safeties all confused, and get all the yards in one play. Who doesn't want to get all the yards in one play, right? It's very important to note that not only were they just chucking the ball down the field, they were really efficient in it. Derek Carr, he's retired now. You can say what you will about Derek Carr in the Saints offense from last year. He had the 8th highest throw completion percentage in that offense last year on passes 15 plus yards down the field. The guy who was right behind him, ninth highest, was Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold can throw the football down the field, and Klint Kubiak's offense, top 10 in deep throw percentage, was good enough to sustain Derek Carr keeping the football out of harm's way, putting it in his receiver's hands when throwing the football down the field. The fourth thing I want to talk about relates to that. You guys love JSN, and a lot of us like Cooper Kupp as well. However, I really want to focus on Marquez Valdes-Scantling. This, to me, is a fantasy deep sleeper. If you're in a deep league, this is a guy you have to get on your roster. Because Klint Kubiak likes to throw the football down the field, he needs somebody to truly take the top off the defense. When you look last year at the New Orleans Saints, Marquez Valdes-Scantling ran the most deep routes. That's go balls, that's posts, and crossers all combined on that entire Saints roster. The entire roster. There's a reason that Klint Kubiak went into Seattle, had this new offense, and said, I want MVS as my third receiver. He is going to be utilized heavily in this Seattle Seahawks offense. And when you're looking at actual fantasy drafts, MVS is ADP 240. He's the 97th ranked wide receiver. So as you are filling out your roster in these drafts, you really want a deep sleeper, a guy who can come in and honestly step in for a potentially injured Cooper Kupp. He's dealt with injuries in the past. Marquez Valdes-Scantling has the deep ball ability. He was pretty good in New Orleans last year when his number was called upon, especially later on in the season, was a borderline fantasy option for you. Now in this Seattle offense with Klint Kubiak, who likes to throw the football down the field, Sam Darnold, who can deliver the football down the field, he is going to have a really nice home. And truthfully, he is not being drafted where he should be because of how good he is down the field and what this offense wants to do. The final thing, which is obviously very important as it relates to Kenneth Walker, I talked about it, is the run game. Last season, Seattle was okay on the ground, right? There were offensive line question marks, and personnel-wise, they improved along the offensive line. We can probably all agree there. But when you look at what Klint Kubiak did offensively in the run game in New Orleans last year, it's going to lean into Kenneth Walker even more. Last season, Klint Kubiak had the third highest zone percentage in the NFL. That's inside zone, outside zone, wide zone, those types of zone runs where you're reading off of blockers instead of man gap, where you have pullers in front of you. That is what New Orleans did. Now, last season, Seattle was better in the man gap world, the other world, by almost 2 yards per carry. It was kind of crazy. But that number had a huge bump from Zach Charbonnet, who averaged roughly 6 yards per carry in those man gap scheme runs. When you look at the zone runs, Kenneth Walker was almost a full yard per carry better than he was in man gap compared to zone. What does this all mean? The type of runs that Klint Kubiak was the third highest in the NFL last year is the type of run that Kenneth Walker is also better in. So there's a really nice marriage between what Klint Kubiak wants to do in the run game as well as what Kenneth Walker is good at in the run game. So to wrap this all up, to tie this all together, the most important thing you can take away from this is Kenneth Walker should be, if he can stay healthy, in for a good year. The scheme leans into Kenneth Walker really, really nicely. If Elijah Arroyo can have a very good year and separate himself from Noah Fant and A.J. Barner, he's going to be utilized. Klint Kubiak likes to be in an offense that throws to tight ends, and last season, Sam Darnold was top 10 in the NFL in tight end throw percentage. Now, the wide receivers are a little confusing. I'm drafting JSN if I can get him at a decent ADP. I'm not so gung-ho on drafting JSN that I'm taking him earlier than he's being drafted, but there's a guy who I really like, deeper sleeper later on, and that's Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I'm not telling you this should be the fourth receiver on your team, but if you're in your 14th, 15th, 16th round and you feel like you have some really good wide receiver options and you want an upside-oriented guy, take a swing at MVS. That's literally who he is as a player. He's a big play, upside guy. He's worth at least a trial. And the bottom line with Sam Darnold is he's going to be in an offense that's going to confuse defenses, that's going to be able to throw the football down the field, and truthfully, he should be able to take care of the ball. So if I can get Sam Darnold at a decent ADP, I am going to. That's the bottom line with him. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. And again, if you are not subscribed, make sure you do so you can stay tuned for other fantasy offense breakdowns. As always, they'll be out on my Twitter first, which is also in the description. I appreciate you guys watching. We will see you next time. God bless.